Welcome on in, members of the chapter. This is Sprues and Studs, and today we have yet another new action figure to review for Warhammer 40K, and I can't be more excited because we are going to be taking a look at the Ultramarines Terminator Chaplain that has been Primaris sized. And obviously we're going to be taking a look at the details of this action figure, as well as a very quick comparison between the old OG Terminator Chaplain versus this new Terminator Chaplain. And without further ado, let's go to the review. All right, we have the Chaplain in Terminator armor number 2 to take a look at, and we will see what JoyToy has graced us with over here. So clearly on top of the action figure, this has the design of the new Primaris Terminators, where you got these 3 nubbins in this particular design here. With regards to the top of the Terminator armor, you've got this nice golden kind of half halo over here. And with the helmet itself, it's a very interesting look, mainly because this action figure has a nice glaring skull that is looking back at you, and the skull actually has nice metallic red lenses and a bunch of shading here. Almost reminds me of a Primaris Reaver in terms of the design right here of the helmet. So as we flip this area around, you obviously get the Ultramarines U over here, and then raised area for the banner over here. But instead of having this ingrained, this is actually screened onto it. Another thing I'll have to say about this pauldron is that the blue is kind of spray painted on, and it gradually tapers off to the Chaplain's black color. And then flipping around over here, we have the very nicely done Crux Terminatus here, complete with the regular dry brushed highlights that you see. Another thing I'll point out to you is that this action figure also has the benefit of highlights on the side of the armor panels, as you can see here. And black being a very dull color, JoyToy has done a very good job to bring this thing to life with these nice white highlights. So as we're progressing on down, you clearly have a skull and crossbone icon, but the really cool thing is that this is supposed to mimic a rib cage, and once again you can see all the highlights that are happening with this too. We are at the midsection of the action figure, and you clearly see a kind of a very large purity seal. So this is the golden area of the seal, followed by a very ornate, actually, purity seal kind of ribbon here. And the wards are actually ingrained into the plastic itself. So that's nice to see. And then flipping onto the side, we have the side armor panels. And just like what we saw in the Librarian as well as the Terminator Captain, the purity seal has kind of a cross in the middle of it. And then the ribbons are hanging down. So we flip over here. There is kind of like an amulet that is dangling down. And then on this side, you have a very prominent gold skull. And there is a special kind of like luster to this with regards to the shading here. So taking a look at the legs of this action figure, there's clearly a gold skull, the Ultramarines kind of like heraldic shield pattern, and then these gold accents that are happening down with the shin area. And then once again, more purity seals on this side. Now, as we look at the back of this action figure, it's pretty much plain. There's really nothing much to say. The vents are completely black. It doesn't have that metallic sheen that the Librarian does. So this is the body of the Terminator. And one thing I'll have to say about this action figure is that this thing has got a nice heft to it. I don't think I actually commented on it very much with regards to my action figure reviews, but I noticed that there was a very nice heft with regards to it. This guy feels really dense, and it kind of feels like it's got a premium quality feel because of it. So we're going to take a look at the Stormbolter, and this is once again stuff that we have seen before. Instead of the casing being black, this obviously is red, and there is really extensive shading that's happening with the red casing here. And there is a certain amount of weathering that's also happening with the gunmetal section. I'll have to say that this Crozius, once again, kind of follows the motif of having the wings right here, the skull, as well as this double Aquila type pattern. But you will notice over here with regards to this particular Crozius is that one side has the eye, this side does not, and I believe that is the case with the other side as well. So we're going to put this down and then pick up this 4-edged Crozius. Clearly it does a lot of blunt damage with the spikes that are happening with the end. And there apparently is two different types of birds over here. One bird looking like this, and then the other bird looking like that. This is more of a fatter type of look. And then on the bottom of these birds, you clearly get to see a skull. And then the very red handle that is nice to break up the pattern of the black of the Terminator here. So interesting enough, the Chaplain also comes with a very ornate storm shield, and this is very reminiscent of what we saw on the Blade Guard, obviously. So the storm shield is clearly a gold color, but it also has this red patterning in the middle. And then in the center of this shield is a very decorated skull. There's a ribbon with a checkered pattern that's wrapped around the bones of the skull. You can see that there's extensive shading that's happening. So let's flip around to the other side. You can clearly see this is a powered shield with all the blue nodes that are happening here. And you've also got this extra strap here so that the Chaplain can tote this thing around. And the final thing that we're going to be taking a look at today is the bare head here. Once again, this looks like a Primaris Reaver. I'll have to say that the eyes are kind of weirdly screened on, in that he kind of looks like he's staring off again to the upper right-hand corner. He's clearly got a deep scar that is running here, but you can see a bunch of shading and a lot of detail. I do, once again, like the Reaver type mask. So obviously off to the left-hand side is the aforementioned Terminator Chaplain that was originally released. That is a very beautiful paperweight. You get to see the size disparity between the original one versus the Primaris size Terminator Chaplain. And once again, the top of the head of the original Chaplain literally comes up to the top of the chest of the Primaris one. So once again, highlighting the size disparity. We will do a more direct comparison video later on in the future. However, I also want to highlight, once again, this Terminator Chaplain has the new Terminator pauldrons, where you can see there is a hinge here and a ball and socket joint, which is, once again, as I said before, quite the superior pauldron. This one, on the other hand, the reason why I say it's a paperweight is that this pauldron right here is affixed to the body of this Terminator through that tab right there, if you can see on the camera. And unfortunately, this thing is absolutely static. It does not move. This is the maximum extension that you can possibly get here, whereas on the Primaris Chaplain Terminator, this has a full range of motion. So now that we have compared these two Terminators, as well as given you a in-depth review of this one, let's wrap this review up. So starting off with the general aesthetic of this action figure, I think JoyToy did a fantastic job of bringing the black Terminator armor to life by putting these nice white highlights. Without the white highlights, this action figure would look completely dull and kind of lifeless in my opinion, so I'm glad that they put that on. The second thing I'm going to comment on is that this action figure has a lot of heft in it. It makes you feel as if literally the money that you've spent on this action figure is worth its weight in heft. One of the things that I like about this action figure, obviously the gold helmet is very unique to this action figure. I like how it stands out and looks properly menacing in my opinion. The four-sided Crozius is very interesting and unique in of itself, as well as the storm shield. The question is it worth getting? And in my opinion, this one is definitely worth getting, mainly because it has the full range of articulation. I'll definitely be doing a side-by-side comparison between the OG Terminator Chaplain versus this guy right here. And I'll highlight, obviously, the differences on that one. And if you want to pick this action figure up, there's only one place to get it, and that is David Toys, where I get all my action figures. Just click in the link in the description below, and do not forget to use the code SNS to receive 12% off of your purchase. And with that being said, members of the chapter, I thank you so much for your continued viewership and your continued devotion to the Emperor. And with that being said, as usual, I'll see you all in the next one.